In 2024, your host, Mark Smith, celebrated 7 years of the Microsoft Business Applications podcast. Now, we step into a transformative 2025 with a fresh new name. Welcome to the Microsoft Innovation Podcast. Our new name reflects a broader vision, exploring the intersection of people, business, technology, and AI. You'll also hear from me, Meg Smith, a bit more as we launch a new exciting series called The AI Show.
Welcome to the Power Platform Show. Thanks for joining me today. I hope today's guest inspires and educates you on the possibilities of the Microsoft Power Platform. Now, let's get on with the show. In this episode, we'll be focusing on the Power Platform success at SLB or Schlumberger, particularly highlighting the usage in HR, health and safety applications. Today's guest is from Houston, Texas in the United States. She works at SLB as the HR Digital Cell Lead. She speaks Greek, English, Russian, and is currently learning to speak Spanish. Amazing. She's interested in AI, machine learning, and adoption of O365 tools for business development and operation digitization. She's also recognized by Microsoft as a Microsoft Power Apps champion since 2001. You can find links to her bio, social media, and the like in the show notes for this episode. Welcome to the show, Georgia.
Hi, Mark. Thank you so much. That's a very, very nice introduction. Thank you for that.
Excellent. I can't believe how many languages you know.
I know. I can say hi in every single language if you want.
Can you really?
Oh, yes. I can say ya, which is in Greek, hi in English, zdravstvuyte, which is in Russian, and hola in Spanish.
Yeah, valid.
There you go.
Valid. So tell us a bit about food, family, and fun. What do they mean to you?
Well, family is very important to me. They all live back in Greece, so I travel a lot to see them. I made a promise when I left that I will always go back at least once a year, and I have kept my promise for 7 years in a row. So that's
Wow.
a good track there. Food, I'm a foodie for sure. I like to try different tastes. I risk definitely. And lately I have raised my spice level a little bit because I couldn't take spicy at all. So now at least I can do mild or medium on that aspect. And on hobbies, I mean, I try a lot of things, but the one that I love the most is traveling. I love to go to different countries, meet different cultures, people from there, learn about their cultures, their life, and just go around, taste food as well locally. So yeah, that's my passion, I think, traveling.
I love it. What's your favorite country? If you could only choose one country to live for the rest of your life, where would it be?
Oh, don't make that question Greece. I can't say no to that. But only if they retire there.
Yes.
For vacation.
Yes, I know what you mean. I would say New Zealand would be my choice, because I live here now, but Italy is definitely my number one second country.
Mediterranean in general is very nice.
And then I would follow that with Portugal. But here's the thing. I have never been to Greece.
Here's the thing. I invite you to come anytime. You have to tell me and we can go.
Oh, I'd love to go to Greece. As in, it's definitely, it's one of my wife's been. She went without me and I have not been there.
Oh, she's been without you while you were together or before?
Yes, while we were together. Like, I think she went there because I had to go on a work trip to China for Microsoft, and she had family coming, and they decided, this is when we were living in London, and so she went to Greece, and I still have not been.
Oh, such a pity. You need to go. You should go.
Yeah.
Take your wife this time. Don't hold a grudge.
Yes. Maybe next year. I'm planning on going to live in Italy for a month next year so I can do a couple of conferences. And I've had 2 children now, so I'll be taking a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old to Italy, which for a month, I think it'll be awesome. Maybe 6 weeks. My wife just said maybe 6 weeks rather than a month. And so we're planning on probably going to Greece as part of that.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, if you want recommendations, just
Yes,
send me
I'll
over
hit
a
you up.
message. Yeah.
Totally. Now, let's talk about how you got into tech before we talk about in detail about SLB, because SLB is one of the poster childs for Microsoft and the use of the Power Platform. Alan, who's on your team, I've had on the podcast before, and as we discussed off air, I just met him again in person a couple of weeks ago at the Power Platform conference, in a community conference in Vegas. But tell me about, how did you first get exposed to the Power Platform? What was that journey for you?
That's an interesting journey, actually. I was doing my master's in Scotland. It was IT in oil and gas. And obviously, they don't teach you Power Platform because it was quite new. It was 2017 when I was doing it. So they teach you like Java, all that kind of Python, the pro code. So when I was trying to get a job, obviously, nobody was telling me anything about Power Platform, and I never heard of it. So I went to the interview for an internship in SLB, and that was with Alan, the interview. So I go to the interview, we discuss all kinds of things, and then he asked me, have you heard of Power Platform or Power BI or Power Apps? And I was like, oof, that doesn't sound familiar, but that's a thought in my mind. Like, okay, what's the closest I can think of? And I said, well, are these Microsoft tools? Because I only know PowerPoint. Seriously, I said that. And I was like, okay, he obviously smiled, laughed, and he explained to me what are Power Apps and Power BI, and that I don't really need to know in order to start using them and build something on my own. So he did explain that even on the interview. Such a great guy, Alan. Yeah, and that's how I started, because when I left that interview, I was like, there is no way he's hiring me for an IT internship for knowing PowerPoint. But in the end, the next day I received my email saying that you start on the 3rd of September. I was like, okay, it did work out, saying the truth or being funny about it and not knowing anything about Power Platform. That's how I started. Alan taught me for a few weeks.
Wow. That's amazing. So tell me, how did you get your first, what was the first project then that you worked on?
So initially he was giving me very small tasks so I can get to learn the power-ups mainly in the beginning. So he was telling me, oh, I can't do this. Obviously he could, but he was just giving it, saying, I can't do this. Can you find out how that can be done? It was like a gallery with images and stuff like that. So it was simple things now that I'm thinking about it. But back then, to me, it was big. So I was going online, I was Googling. Obviously, when I had to go back and tell him I couldn't find anything, I had to go back and tell him I researched everything. I couldn't go back and just say I couldn't do it within an hour, for example. So I researched everything on Google, and obviously lots of YouTube videos that I was watching with our friend Saint Young, obviously, since then. So yeah, that's how little things, galleries, buttons here and there to figure out how to build things. And then the first app I did was an emergency response app for HSC, though I was not working for HSC back then yet. And it was a huge application that Alan gave it to me to do it because he had done something in the past for them with a software, that SharePoint site, but he said, now we have to do it in Power Apps since we have a better platform. And that's how I got into doing it. Obviously, he was checking on me and I was asking questions to Alan, but it was solely me doing that application for 3 months. It took me a while, but it was a huge application to start with. And it's being used up to today. I think it got a revamp last year because it's been a while, but yeah, it's being used still.
That's so cool. That's so cool. So tell us a bit about SLB. I'm so used to calling it Schlumberger.
Yes.
But tell me, like, how big is this company? What's the industry it operates in? What's its global distribution?
So we are a company in the energy industry. We provide services, software to other energy companies. We are 111,000 employees worldwide, spread around 115 countries. So the spread is quite huge. And we do have employees from 200 different nationalities. So even the diversity is a challenge that we embrace, I would say.
That's amazing. That's amazing. That's a quite a geography spread and a very large company. Now, can you give me any stats around how much of the adoption level of the Power Platform? Like last time I talked to Alan, he gave me numbers around the number of automations, the number of apps you have running, the number of active monthly users. Do you have any of those type of data points now? Because I think it's 6 years ago.
Well, I was trying to get those earlier, but what I know is that we have at least around 40,000 applications today. Obviously, some of them are for productivity purposes within a team.
Yes.
Other are much larger applications that are being used in a wider audience. And some of them might be used even throughout SLB from all employees. So automations, I'm sure they reach some 100,000s as well.
Wow.
I would say. But I do not have all the numbers, unfortunately, because I couldn't see the CEO kit.
Okay, that's very interesting. Tell me about agents. And I'm not talking about AI agents. I'm talking about SLB agents. This is something that Alan created.
Yes.
What is an agent? What does it mean? And why is it important?
So Alan started this, and I was his guinea pig, as he says in most of his presentations. So he started this kind of program, the special agents in SLB. He wanted to clone himself, so he doesn't have to get all the requests and do all these applications or analytics on his own, but have other people that can do it at the level he can. Obviously, we cannot reach Alan's level, but we can be good enough to be special agents under him. In the business. So he tried to clone himself and put us in the business, help out in the different departments and business units in the company. So we sit inside the business and we can find what are their pain points easier in that way. So that was his plan. And I think he has quite a few now.
Wow. So we're talking about, I take it it's based on like James Bond, right?
Yes.
Agent. Yeah, 007. Who's got 007 in the business? Do you know?
Nobody. He's not giving it to anyone.
License to kill, eh? No one's got that one. And so what's your agent number?
It's 001, just because I'm the first one.
Wow.
Yes, I know.
Man,
right?
that is so epic. That's so epic.
I'm the baseline.
I find it interesting. I've seen even people leave SLB and go into Microsoft, and yet still their LinkedIn profile shows their agent number.
Yes.
That is so cool. That is so cool.
I believe Alan created like a little community, which is, it's always nice to have.
So tell us a bit more about the concept around it. So you're saying that agents then get deployed across the business into various business units to understand their challenges and then produce solutions for them.
Yeah, that's correct. And but Alan has specific traits, personality traits that he's looking in a person before he can name them an agent. So not everyone can become an agent.
Wow.
He calls them the 3 H's. Being hungry to learn, humble, stay humble. And the other one that I always forget. So humility, hungriness to learn, and hungriness to teach. So you need to be hungry to teach others.
I love that. So do you have a regular cadence where you get together and like do a Teams call with all the other agents? Do you have kind of like check-ins, like showcase what you're doing in your part of the organization? And how does that work?
So we used to have those for sure. Now we do get some get-togethers as well, because most of us at the moment we are in Houston, which is very interesting aspect as well. So we do get the get-togethers here in Houston, which is much nicer because we can go out, have a drink, and discuss as well and have fun. But yeah, you're right. We try to have some get-togethers and discussions. I might just being another person out of nowhere just to discuss things without having to have all the people together.
Nice. And my other thought there is, do you do training on purpose? Like, are various agents running their own training programs, as in to train other people inside SLB?
Yes. While I was in HSC, I started that mini program where I wanted to train HSC people in using Power Platform, because I was just me in HSC. So I could solve a handful of problems at once in a year. So I wanted to teach others how to do even maybe smaller applications or smaller Power BIs or smaller automations to solve their country-specific issues, because we are across many countries and we call them geo-units, is a cluster of countries. So if I could get some help in solving related geo-unit issues without me touching the problem, then that would be very productive and useful for us, because then they could do a POC in a specific geo-unit, and then we could take it and make it global at the headquarters. So yes, I tried to train around 40 people, HSC professionals, not IT professionals.
Yes. Okay, that's amazing. Tell us about the biggest app that you've built or been involved in building that's had a massive impact.
That was a COVID-19 application. It was called COVID-19 Numbers Are Safe application back then, because I was working for HSC. We had to come up with something, a solution. It wasn't supposed to be just an app, but in general, a solution that would help us distribute and communicate and information to our employees that will be the source of truth for COVID-19. Because, in the beginning, especially, we didn't know much about the pandemic. So there was a lot of misinformation out there. So our leaders decided that we want to have one place where our employees can go and see this is approved because has been gone through our professionals in the health and safety department, and they have vetted it in a way. So these are the correct information you should get. So we started even in January back that year. If you remember, the pandemic was announced in March. We started in January because we already had operations that were affected in Asia, in China. So most of the information that we had were coming from that region. But we had employees that didn't know about it in the US, for example, right?
Yes.
So we started in January, and we built that application at the end of January. Within a day, we just launched it. And within a day, it had 6,000 employees accessing it right from the get-go. And I think by the end of pandemic, we had more than 50,000 employees that had accessed the app multiple times.
Wow. That's incredible. An amazing use case. I noticed that around the world. I think the Power Platform really took off in the pandemic time because so many organizations are building solutions like this. Now that you're in HR, what's your typical use cases that you're building for?
Are you ready to accelerate your career in the Microsoft ecosystem? The 90-Day Mentoring Challenge, created by Mark Smith, is your opportunity to create a personalized pathway to success. Join over 1,200 alumni from more than 70 countries who have achieved remarkable results, from promotions to new job opportunities. Take it from Nathan, who said, "Since completing the 90-Day Mentoring Challenge, I've become an MVP in business applications and doubled my income." Or from Parves, who shares, "I've never felt as inspired or energized about my career as I do now." Sign up at arcor.nz365guide.com. You can find the link in the show notes. And if you use the code podcast, you'll get 10% off.
HR has a lot of analytics, data analytics. So I'm using lots of Power BI with my team right now, rather than Power Apps. So lots of Power BI, lots of automations as well, in order to get some data from systems that we don't usually have connectors for. So analytics is around, you asked me about how many employees we had, or the spread across the countries. These are kind of things that I can look into, and we deep dive in those things to find out maybe how many employees, how much attrition we have in a specific region, how we can address that, what is the reason people are leaving, or how many acquisitions, how many people we have acquired throughout the years? What's the trend? All these kind of things we analyze in HR. And from apps perspective, we do have some applications. The latest one I'm working on, and it's live, but we're still working on enhancing it, is Talent Moves. Because obviously within an organization that huge, you have a lot of moves of employees from one place to another, from one position to another, from one department to another. And the company needs to track those and have the ability to find the right talent for the right position and verify vice versa. So that's the latest application.
So what does that app do? Is it purely an app where people can list their skills, etc., and then you use it as, a hiring manager chooses it in another area? What are you using it for?
No, not really. So this application is mostly, in SLB, we don't do things standard way, if you want. Never. So we don't post a position for employees to say, I want this position, or employees don't really have to tell us every skill they have. We do have a platform where they can say, oh, this is what I would like to do in the future, and kind of plan it. But we don't always have to stick to that plan as long as we put them in a path for development. So we have talent managers who look into the employee profile. So every employee has assigned a talent manager. And then they work it out. So they can see the positions that become available. They can see the employees that are available and how they match towards those positions, and marriage.
So cool.
It's like a marriage of a position with an employee.
That's so cool. I've never come across a concept of an organization having talent management internally and I can see how that would benefit a business so well to have that kind of thinking. Does that mean people move around much in their roles?
Yes. That's
cool.
Exactly what it means. I mean, I am 7 years now in the company, and I already moved 2 times. Well, if you count my internship, is 3, because I started as an intern in Scotland in geo unit called EUR, Europe. And then I moved to headquarters HSC. That was one move. And then I moved to HR, headquarters HR. So that's second move. And I'm an IT employee.
Wow. Are those different countries as well?
Yes, that was different countries. I moved from Scotland to London, and then from London to Houston.
Wow, that's incredible. So for SLB, is London headquarters? Is that head office?
We do have 4 head offices. We have London, we have Paris, we have Houston, and The Hague.
Wow, wow. Any desire to move to Paris?
I would love to, just to experience it, but it's super expensive.
Yes.
Same as London. But yeah, I wouldn't mind maybe a short assignment. Why not?
Have you seen the Netflix series Emily in Paris?
I did, yes.
Yeah, that's what makes me want to go back to Paris. I'm just like, it's such a cool city. It's such a cool city.
It's a very cool city. I agree.
Yeah. But I feel that to be successful in Paris, you must speak French.
Which is a pain point because I don't. And I don't like it. I find it very difficult.
Why are you learning Spanish at the moment?
That's another funny story. It was during COVID when I started learning Spanish, and the language school that I was using in Greece to learn English, they were doing those virtual lessons for their students. And I was like, okay, why not? I know the people. I know they are a good school. They have good teachers. So I signed up for class, and they were offering specific languages. And from those, I was like, I did Russian. I know Russian. I'm done with Russian. So the next one that it seemed logical to me was Spanish, because they had French, but I cannot do French for no reason. And then they had Turkish. I was like, okay, I don't really like them that much, the language. I'm not going to get into that. And then was Italian and Spanish. So I was between the two and just went with Spanish.
Nice. I spent 2 different weeks, not together, in a Spanish language school in Spain, but it was to teach them English.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah. So as people had gone through like a full immersion English training program. So they're like companies like Diageo, where, they're a global company, all business is done in English, yet these were Spanish. And so they were often executives and stuff that needed to feel comfortable speaking in English. And so for this 2 weeks in 2 different locations in Spain, and one was like a restored monastery, which was amazing. Another one was a castle. It was just such a cool venue to do this all around Madrid or outside Madrid. And what happened is they just needed to be able to have a conversation for 1 hour in English where they weren't allowed to speak any Spanish. And this was after they had done all their, like, let's say 12 months of English training. And so I just had to sit down and have a chat for an hour. And at the end of that hour, then another student would come along and would move out by the pool maybe and, have a swim in the pool while we just converse. But the number one rule, no Spanish was allowed to be spoken at all. And so it was so cool because you basically moved around all the students over the course of this week, having these, and you ate dinner, lunch, and breakfast with them, which was just amazing because they just put all the food on. It was 3-course meals for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It was amazing. And but yeah, you just got to speak all day, chatting, and you just learned about so many people's lives. And it was such a cool method of what they called their final step, full immersion, where they just had to converse in English.
That's a very difficult step,
yeah.
I think, because even now I'm not fluent in speaking. I can understand. So if someone else is talking with someone else in Spanish, I can understand everything, but I can pitch in the conversation in English because my Spanish conversation is very low.
Yeah. But man, I'm impressed that you've learned so many languages. Anything else that you can share about SLB and how, why do you think it has scaled to the size is phenomenal, the number of apps, the number of automations? Has Alan been really the driving force of all that happening? Like, it seems that he is. And is that how it's kind of spread out across the organization?
I believe so. Power Platform, I don't think it was big when I joined SLB. It was just starting from what I understood as well. And it was, the feeling was, at least my feeling was that Alan was kind of driving, at least in the EUR. And then he got the attention of the HQ. They created that digital engagement manager position, and they got him there to drive it throughout SLB. So that obviously that feels like Alan was doing the right thing back there in driving Power Platform. And maybe it's not just Power Platform, but is the ability to scale with Power Platform faster. And I think SLB, with the size of SLB, we do need that ability to scale up and down if you want. And we have an IT department, but is not as big to service 100,000 employees and the needs that the different countries have. So using Power Platform is a logical step to help out and have citizen developers build solutions for their own use at their own country with their own specific laws or specific processes.
Yeah. You talked about the agent system, the 3 H's, and that culture of really hungry to learn and hungry to train other people as well. And I love humility, One of my favorite quotes is stay humble and curious, because you'll always keep discovering, new things. And do you see anything else that kind of made it possible to scale as large as you has? Are there any other kind of ingredients in that mix of why SLB has become so successful on the Power Platform?
I think obviously COVID-19 played a role as well, because people needed lots of solutions fast to tackle different things, and lots of analytics as well, because, analytics during COVID-19 was a must. Analyzing data that we were receiving either for cases, for vaccinations, to send people to the platforms, to the wells. That's important in order to operate. So I think COVID-19 was one, but also I think Power Platform is fun, right? You can do so many different things, fun things, make an application that might be for a very boring process, but if you make the application fun, then the boring process becomes fun as well. So I think
Nice.
the Power Platform itself helps in that.
That's so cool. That's really cool. As in that fun element, I don't hear it often. And straight away, I'm thinking about how I would pitch that to an executive and the importance of it. Georgia, it's been so good having you on and to tell your story and be Agent 001. I just think is amazing. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you, Mark, for having me. I enjoyed it a lot. Thank you.
Hey, thanks for listening. I'm your host, Business Application MVP Mark Smith, otherwise known as the NZ365 Guy. If there's a guest you'd like to see on the show, please message me on LinkedIn. If you want to be a supporter of the show, please check out buymeacoffee.com/NZ365 Guy. Stay safe out there and shoot for the stars.
Support for this episode comes from Justin Welsh's guide to finding your voice on LinkedIn. When I worked at Google, I never posted on LinkedIn because I didn't think anyone wanted to hear what I had to say. Then I took Justin's course, and it gave me the confidence to start sharing authentically. Check it out if you've been wanting to show up on LinkedIn but don't know how to start. Sign up using the link in the show notes.